Because I think it goes, it's like the first 9 years are odd. It's like wood, paper, tin, fruit or flowers, and then then there's like aluminum. Like, yeah, they don't get fun until like 10, 15, 20. Yeah.
Better make your choices wisely.
I know.
Those need to take ones, but make sure to do it.
Yeah. That's all I know. I don't know.
Pat Jackson, yes, Atlanta being cold, windy.
No, I know.
They're not gonna get how you guys. That's obviously ever.
Just because it hasn't been.
Let's see what happens. You don't know. Man, just don't know this in here. Don't know. Don't know, someone had kids come over.
That's all I need. I didn't say anything to you about the radar stuff. He does have that.
The one that you referenced?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the third, that's the third.
I was like, at first I looked at the printed book side, and I saw 267. Oh, yeah, that's, yeah, but I did double side. Yeah.
I think that would be cheaper.
Yeah, no, I'll look it up.
Use it.
But yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
That water one is
You know,
huge.
our speed.
We can't, we're locked, we're talking about the street, I asked.
You know, you saying that
That's a legal issue, so you can't do that.
It had
40 yard.
Because that is the.
Nothing.
Okay.
You could. And it's just.
That. Like, it just means something that you don't-
See, and that's how. And it's family, so like,
Yeah.
my grandmother lived there, and like, it was most stuff that she had accumulated. And she passed away, some of that stuff is still in her. Nothing more.
They're just lights, they don't.
Do it while you're in like the road. You know, Danielle's. I was finding checkers.
Just stuff people know that they never will actually go back and look at.
Right. Right, yeah, 100%.
All right, you're all back, and we'll go ahead and move the order at 7:01 p.m. We we can start with a moment of silence. And we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I remind everybody to either silence their cell phone or turn them off, please. City Clerk Domingo, if you'll take a roll call.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed, Jackson,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
LaNoue,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Here. Do I have a motion to approve of the agenda?
So
Or
Any additions, deletions requested? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williams,
yes.
Reed, Jackson,
moved. Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
LaNoue,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. So we'll start this evening with two proclamations. The first is in honor and celebration of life and influence for Dr. James L. Curtis. Whereas it is fitting that the City Council of Albion, Michigan should recognize exemplary citizens who celebrate unique milestones in their venerable lives. And whereas Dr. James L. Curtis will celebrate his centennial birthday on April 27th, 2022. And whereas young James would aggressively pursue education, spiritual growth, and activism through participation and leadership in the former Austin Elementary School, Washington Gardner Junior High, Washington Gardner High School, class of 1940, Macedonia Baptist Church, Grace Temple, and the Albion chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and innumerable other historic and influential Albion institutions. And whereas Dr. Curtis' excellence in higher education as a student at Albion College, class of 1944, and the University of Michigan, class of 1946, proving the promise of more equitable, accessible, and rigorous higher education opportunities for Black students in Michigan. And whereas Dr. Curtis's commitment to a more inclusive Albion and America included service to the United States Army and Air Force, persuasive writings and award-winning speeches on democracy, equality, freedom, and international affairs, and strong advocacy for affirmative action in the field of medicine. And whereas Dr. Curtis took a leadership role in the struggles for civil rights, affirmative action, and Black recognition throughout a distinguished career as a psychiatrist, professor, and higher education administrator. And whereas together with his beloved wife, Vivian, Dr. Curtis modeled the possibilities of the Black family, Black education, and Black philanthropy in ways that encouraged and informed the religious, civic, and interpersonal lives of countless Albion residents. And whereas after his retirement from psychiatry in 2000, Dr. Curtis returned to Albion in 2003 and serves as a cultural, historical, and moral foundation of his home community. He continues to use his education and influence toward the betterment of our city, region, state, nation, and world. And whereas Dr. Curtis facilitates educational opportunity and recognition for Black students from Albion through monetary gifts that sustain the James Curtis MD Class of 44 Endowed Scholarship and the James Curtis Institute for Race and Belonging in the School for Public Purpose and Professional Advancement at Albion College. And whereas we celebrate James L. Curtis on 100 years of life that continue to inspire, uplift, and empower Black people and everyone who hears his powerful story. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city to be affixed. So we again celebrate Dr. Curtis on his 100th birthday this past April 27th. The next proclamation is the Mow May. Was it presentation? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. If I will ask Maggie LaNoue, come on up.
Hello, council, mayor, city manager. My name is Maggie LaNoue. I'm here to talk a little bit about the Mow May initiative, which has started to gain traction in Albion, along with Albion Cleanup for Earth Day on the website nextdoor.com. People were interested in participating in the Mow May program, but they wanted to know the opinion of Albion City Council and how this would affect their compliance with the city ordinances. The program began in the United Kingdom, gaining popularity in 2019 after it was determined that the wildflower fields, which was a primary feeding ground for the bees, were 95% gone. Pollination is necessary for our food supplies. Bees, wasps, butterflies, moths, and birds are primary pollinators, and they're all in decline. Mow May started up in the United States in several Wisconsin communities in 2020, beginning with Appleton, Wisconsin. There, the residents and their city council agreed to suspend their weed ordinance for the month of May. In 2022, Michigan is getting on board. The city of Ann Arbor unanimously passed a Mow May initiative in 2022 on April 4th, less than a month ago, after it was introduced earlier in the week. Their resolution, Ann Arbor City Council declares Mow May, encourage property owners to refrain from mowing their property, front and backyards, from now until May 31st, 2022. I'm hoping that we can pass a resolution to encourage residents not to mow their backyards only, just out of more understanding for neighbors and things. And I have three neighboring experts on nature who have given me quotes, and I'm just going to read their quotes. One is Tom Welch of the Center for Sustainability and the Environment and faculty director. He writes, I personally support the concept of voluntary Mow May for the city of Albion. This action would increase pollinators in the community, which is good for the overall health of the local ecosystem. I hope the action would also decrease chemical applications on lawns. Those chemicals are harmful in the environment and potentially reach the Kalamazoo River through the city's storm drain system. I am impressed by the Appleton, Wisconsin story, and as an Albion resident, I would be willing to participate. Then Jason Raditz, the director of the White House Nature Center at Albion College, who focuses on environmental education, agrees. He states, I think this is a pretty low impact, high reward proposal. I echo Tom's thoughts regarding water quality and sovereignty along the Kalamazoo River. Pollinators have seen a significant decrease in population and diversity over the past decade, so anything that we are able to do to assist should be supported. Martha O'Cannon is a retired professor from Albion College, and she now runs a backyard blog with entries about different flora and fauna that she observes in her yard. Here are some comments she shared about Mow May and some other things we can do to support our pollinators. She supports a balanced view of bugs and plants. I fully support anything we can do to help out nature. There are more interesting things to do than grow grass. I suggest goldenrod for the brave. Any things you hear about goldenrod and allergies are false. If that's too tall, then try other flowering plants. Anyway, up with the environment. Goldenrod is one of our best supporters of pollinators of other plants. I used to dig and tear it up every year, but now I make a space for it. It attracts some of the most beautiful insects. Wasps, as you noted, are not bad. They are one of the best pollinators. I get very close to them and I never feel any dread. Because Albion may be getting on board now and May has started, we decided to start with the outline that Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, which limits the elimination of code enforcement on weeds to the backyards only.
The Fort Atkinson City Council recently approved a temporary exception to the city code, allowing homeowners to grow grass in their backyards taller than their code, which suggests 8 inches during the month of May. By restricting the practice to backyards, the city staff hope to facilitate the program on a trial basis while circumventing complaints from neighbors who might not support the concept. The United States Environmental Protection Agency recognizes the need to protect pollinators and established the first National Pollinator Week last year during the last full week of June. The event is stating the support of pollinator health and is now worldwide. Our goals in Albion for Mow May include raising the public awareness of the declining population of pollinators, primarily bees. There are many things we can do, but the easiest thing is just to mow less and to set our mowers to a higher level. This year, if the council approves a No Mow May resolution, we can choose to not mow at all in our backyards during the month of May, but we may want to keep a ruler handy and do some cutting if the grass in back does get to be closer to 10 inches this year. Some yard experts say a string cutter can help to cut the grass when it gets time to cut it back to the usual level before June. We heard from some community members with their support of No Mow May on the next door site about this and Earth Day cleanups. Dozens of people came out on 2 different weekends in April to pick up litter in Albion, especially around exit 121 in April. We still have a bit more to do near the old Burger King where there is a carnival now. If any group would like to help with that area, we still have some trash bags and gloves left, thanks to Albion Volunteer Service Organization for providing those. We will post more tips and links to other city programs on albionmish.net if and when our resolution becomes official. Does anyone have questions? Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll go on to public comment. Do we have anybody in the gallery that would like to stand and make a comment in regards to an agenda item? If so, please come forward, state your name and address, and we will have 3 minutes.
Public comment?
Yep.
Good evening. I'm Wesley Ardendick. I reside at 700 East Michigan Avenue. I would certainly support any good things you have to say about Dr. Curtis, but I want to say a few words about Maggie LaNoue's proposal about No Mow May, No Mow May initiative. Beginning in the spring of 1970, and coinciding with the first Earth Day of April 1970, I have taught an environmental history class at Albion College, continuing through the spring semester of 2021 last year when I retired. Concern for the fate of the earth and for the future of the planet compelled folks like myself to learn more about ecology and good stewardship of our planet. Teaching environmental history for more than 50 years deepened my knowledge and intensified my concerns for our shared future. We humans have had a great impact on the natural world in which we all depend. Climate change is a central story in how we have altered our environment. We are heating up the planet, which has an impact on all the creatures that share the earth with us, and of course, impacts us. We are living through the 6th great extinction. Throughout Earth history and deep geological time, there have been 5 previous extinctions. The difference this time, this is the first extinction caused by human behavior. In short, we are in deep environmental trouble. Well, what can we do about that? Perhaps you've seen the recent film, Don't Look Up. In the film, a huge asteroid was on its path to impact the Earth. People portrayed in the film were distracted and persuaded to go ahead about their normal business and not look up at the asteroid that was on its way to destroy our planet. The film is seen as a parable about climate change denial. that has prevented America from moving ahead as urgently as needed to mitigate climate change. No Mow May is one response to environmental damage. It has the potential to decrease fossil fuel emissions, reduce noise pollution, and increase habitat for pollinators such as bees. As one article noted, beginning in 2006, experts noted significantly yearly declines in honeybee colonies. Decline is likely attributable to a wide range of stressors such as pests, diseases, pesticides, habitat loss, and effects of climate change. The quality of our lives depends on bees. Giving the bees an extra month of enhanced habitat would be a way in healing the planet. Just a couple seconds here. In addition to the ecological benefits, this initiative could lead to renewed discussion of reducing the acreage of lawns in the city in favor of more wild plantings of flowers and plants that would attract and nurture pollinators and create beauty. The No Mow May initiative would send a message to our children that we in Albion are looking up and looking around as we strive to make peace with the planet. In conclusion, the earth is our mother, and an Albion No Mow May resolution could be seen as a fitting Mother's Day present for Mother Earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the gallery? Anybody else? So our consent calendar in our packets, we have the minutes from our April 18th study session, the April 18th regular session, our request for distribution of the copies, and the request for the permit for fireworks. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any questions, comments? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed. Yes. Jackson. Yes. Lawler.
Yes.
LaNoue.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
And there's none.
Yes. We have a motion to approve resolution 2022-17 to amend the council rules of procedure.
So moved.
Second. Attorney Harkness?
So, yeah, as the council recalls, the last time we were here, we discussed the changes which are included as a red line on the packet. If you look under miscellaneous, it's rule 2. We created a section miscellaneous that basically indicates that if a council member obtains information on matters of city business in their capacity as a council member, that information doesn't get shared to third parties prior to that information being disclosed in a council packet or at a public meeting or at a public hearing, unless there's some other requirement of law that it be disclosed. Similarly, we added subsection 2 to that miscellaneous section that basically says that a council member uses city resources in furtherance of any city project or initiative, the existence of a project or initiative is disclosed to the council prior to that information being disseminated to again, a third party, unless it's permitted by law. I believe. And then at subsection G under rule 9, which is on page 11 of the rules, but page 54 and 55 will be packet. We modified the language that was presented last time based on the council's discussion. And so now it's written comments. Well, you can see we deleted delivered and changed it to delivery to the city clerk's office. That was just a grammatical change. It just didn't make sense to say email or delivered to the city clerk's office. And then we added written comments submitted to the council must comply with rule 9E, which rule 9E has to do with the decorum of the comments, not having coarse language or
making personal attacks, things of that nature, to sort of clarify that that applies to the written comments as well. And then we added at the end there, written comments received by council will be reflected in the minutes in the same manner as oral public comments. So when the council receives written public comments, it'll say, just by way of example, written comments were received from John Smith at 123 Cass Street or something like that. And that written comments will not be read aloud at the time of the meeting if any member of council objects to the comments being read, unless the council votes to allow the comments to be read. And that is the entirety of the changes.
Questions for our attorney? Here we go.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
LaNoue,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed, and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve resolution 2022-18, recommending the distribution for the city of Albion Community Comprehensive Plan.
So moved.
Second. City Administrator?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As council and residents, as you're aware, we are working with outside consultant firm Becker and Rader to update the city's current 5-year comprehensive master plan. When I say we, it's the city's planning commission. They have established a subcommittee, which includes a few members of council, I believe Councilmember LaNoue, Councilmember Reed, and then a few members of the planning commission, as well as myself, Director Arnold, Assistant Manager Rich. So we've been working on this process now for the past few months. The planning commission approved by motion recommending that the city council authorize the distribution of the draft plan according to the Michigan Planning Enabling Act at their April 19th, 2022 regular meeting. So now that we have a draft plan, the next step is to release it to the public for 63 days. I don't know why it's 63 days, but that's what the act calls for. So during this time, we encourage all of our residents, businesses, organizations to review this draft plan, submit any comments and feedback to the planning commission. At the close of the 63-day review period, the planning commission will review any public comments or feedback that they receive prior, and will make any necessary changes if that is requested. And then they will schedule a formal public hearing that will be held at a planning commission meeting for approval, and then they will make a recommendation to city council for formal adoption of that plan. So we're very excited and we're thankful to have been working with Becker and Rader to update our plan. It is more user-friendly than our last plan. We had a great last plan, but it was a lot of reading, and sometimes that loses the interest of the audience that you're trying to engage with. So we have added a lot more charts, graphs, pictures to kind of make it user-friendly for our residents. Happy to answer any questions.
Any council member questions? Yes.
Along with the distribution, are you going to have workshops, town halls with explanations?
We weren't planning to. We had those during the development of the draft plan. We had several engagement sessions, one with younger youth within our community, as well as the residents as a whole. So right now the plan has been, we have a draft, what the subcommittee and planning commission has approved, and now we're just looking for feedback. So I would encourage residents to review and then submit any questions, comments to our planning commission to take into consideration.
So how are these going to be made? Are they just online, or are you going to have, can people pick them up here?
Yep, we can have hard copies here available for people to stop in. There will be a link available on the city's website for you to review the plan.
Councilman Williams?
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so I was looking over the document, of course, and it looks like the zoning is the only thing that's really has to be pretty much set in stone. So throughout the time frame for this document, which is 5 years, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there can be amendments made to the document over the course of that 5 years if we see things that's more, that's needed more, or things that, become available that we didn't necessarily ask for?
That is correct, and there have been goals identified within the plan that the planning commission in the city of Albion will work to accomplish. Each year quarterly, the planning commission will review the goals that have been identified to just check progress and then report back each year to the city council to share where we're at with accomplishing those goals that have been identified within the plan. But yes, the plan can be amended at any time. That would just need to occur at the planning commission. It starts with the planning commission and then it comes to city council for formal adoption or approval.
Okay.
Any other questions for, Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. With regard to this plan being made available online, I'm thinking to Councilmember Williams' point in the fact that it hasn't been approved, it might be a good idea to put the word draft.
Yep.
Is that what's gonna happen?
Yes, so yeah, there'll be a watermark or we
Okay.
will specify that this is just a draft.
Okay.
And we can have a little blurb explaining the process on the next steps.
Okay. I also wanted to, acknowledge in terms of the public understanding, I mean, this is a over 100-page document filled with up-to-date information that you've worked really hard and a lot of people worked really hard to compile. But also the goals themselves contain a lot of information that's relevant to the daily life of our residents. I think that like in what I saw the residents were engaged in, it was more, how does your life impact what we want this to be? And so then to bring it back to them and say, this is what we created, did we hear you? Is this actually a reflection of your experience? Are these the goals that you think are the top priorities we should focus on? I think that should definitely happen within this 63-day period. And also, you know, in terms of some of the questions that maybe us council members can't really answer when we're presenting this, our planning director and other folks with more expertise would be able to actually help people.
Yep, so that's why we have this review period. So if you have any questions, maybe there's sections that you don't understand, provide that to the planning commission to take into consideration. Then at that public hearing, when we hold that public hearing before they make a recommendation to city council, that's what we're looking for. Did we meet the goals and expectations of our residents? Is this what you're looking to see that we prioritize over the next 5 years? So that is the next step, and that's kind of that piece that you're looking for. So there will be a time for residents to come out to voice their either support or disapproval. I'm hoping everyone supports this draft plan. A lot of hard work has gone into the subcommittee and then the consulting firm, so that is essentially the next step after this review period.
So I guess I just want to make sure there's an important piece, and that's like the dialogue portion, and I don't think that happens in our meetings or public hearing settings. It's kind of like meet us where we're at versus meeting people where they're at. And so having seen this process back in 2017 and the level of engagement we had then, but also in other cities, I think it is really important that we actually go into the community and meet people where they're at with that expertise at times when people are available multiple times a day and different days of the week. And I think doing that during this period is the purpose of this period of time. Because just one public hearing really isn't a sufficient amount of time to go through this level of content for people who aren't in those roles.
I don't want to overstep the subcommittee or the planning commission, so I can provide your feedback to them. And kind of the ball is in their court because this plan is still their working document. They are the governing body who has been tasked to create this plan. So I'm happy to provide that feedback. And if that is a route that board would like to take, then they can move forward with stepping that.
Thank you for extending that. I also know that we talked specifically about page 59 of the plan, but 131 of our packet, where it goes into the implementation. I just wanted to share the feedback publicly here that with regard to what I would consider a significant amount of progress that's been made since 2017, despite tremendous upheaval and turnover of key roles like the city manager. That progress, I think, would really help people right now understand where the city's at, where the city's better, where we're going. And so that's something I'm planning to ask the planning commission to include both within this document at the beginning of this section, and then to your point earlier, just emphasizing the importance of those annual updates.
And with just, I can speak on that a little bit, with the transition within the city manager's office. So our last comprehensive plan was adopted in 2017. Shortly after that, our Dr. Mitchell, who was our current city manager who worked on the last city plan, she had a departure from the city, and then we kind of had just a series of transition with the city managers. With that, also Director John Tracy, he just has recently retired, who was the department head who worked with the planning commission to get this, our last plan updated. So moving forward, hopefully we have a sense of stability here within city administration. We will have quarterly updates with the planning commission to discuss, okay, these are the goals that have been identified, where are we at with that? And each year, the planning commission, they are supposed to submit a yearly report to the city council to kind of report back on, okay, these are the goals that have been identified, this is what's been accomplished, or this is what's working on. So, or that we're still working to accomplish. So by having a sense of stability within our city administration, we will make sure that that process is able to be accomplished.
Thank you very much.
So knowing that you all are on the front lines in regards to talking to your constituents about the comprehensive plan, definitely know, like the city manager Snyder was saying, if you have folks that have questions or have concerns or don't feel that their voice is being reflected accurately, definitely, like, we know that we have planning commission meetings where you can bring these concerns, you can bring, you know, ideas to the planning commission so that they can be incorporated into this document. So we do have meetings coming up. And so it's not set in stone yet. That's why we have it opened up for public review and consumption, because like Councilwoman LaNoue said, this is a very lengthy document. We want to make sure that our constituents understand what's involved with this. So definitely bring any questions, concerns that you may have to the planning commission.
And for those who do not know, our planning commission, they meet on the third Tuesday of the month. So our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 17th at 7 p.m. here in the council chamber. So I would encourage anyone to come and attend those meetings, share, voice their concerns, voice feedback, provide that commission with your feedback on this draft plan. In any other area.
Just one final comment. I think that people probably get tired of me talking about this plan, but it's so important to the city, and I just wanted to re-emphasize that this sets the trajectory of decision-making, grant applications, and the priorities that everything else falls under. So making sure that this is an accurate reflection of our community is essential.
And I would just say this is kind of a piece as well. We have our citywide comprehensive master plan, but then we also have the city capital improvements plan. So our current CIP is set to go through this year. So we have started reviewing that plan internally. My office has, and we're looking to begin that updating process of that plan as well. We are, as I mentioned before, we're starting the budget process a lot earlier this year. And your capital improvements plan should be tied in or reflect the budget process. So what are we budgeting to purchase new equipment, road improvements, water sewer infrastructure improvements. So that will also tie into our master plan as well. So there's a lot of updating to our city plans right now, but it's crucial that we do this so that we can make sure that we are doing what's best for the city of Albion. So this, there's another piece coming, our capital improvements plan, and we will work with the planning commission on that plan as well to adopt that and then bring it to city council for formal approval.
Are those plans annual plans?
Nope, so that's another 5-year.
Both of them 5 years?
Any questions, comments for city manager? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
LaNoue,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed, Jackson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve resolution 2022-19, set best practices for discipline process.
So moved.
Support. Councilwoman LaNoue.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. So we reviewed the language that's included here in this resolution at the last regular meeting. But there was at least one addition. The last, be it further resolved, specifically acknowledges the Michigan Home Rule City Act that says that a council member shall continue to serve until the end of their elected term, even if the redistricting process removes that city council member from the precinct that they were elected to represent. That was a point of clarification I thought would be really important because there was a lot of confusion around that for this term. Attorney Harkness, is there anything else that changed?
No, that we took essentially the notes that were provided and we structured into a resolution, and as you just indicated, we added that final paragraph, but otherwise it was exactly as presented to council at the last meeting.
Questions or comments?
I had a question, in the paragraph resolved, at the end, it says whichever occurs later. But in the preceding sentence, it says, or as soon as census data becomes available. So I was wondering, what's the time frame? Is it later or sooner or later?
So I think the reason we wrote it, or at least I'll say the reason I drafted it in that particular way is by way of example, this particular year, there was a delay in the release of the census data. And so while in an ideal world, we would like the process to start in August, if there is a delay in the federal Census Bureau releasing the data, we're kind of just hampered on, whichever occurs, later is if either August of the year following the decennial census or whenever they actually release the data. So if they don't release it until September is your start time, but ideally you would like to start in August.
Perfect, thank you.
Follow-up question about that. My understanding was that August was the delayed timeline. The actual data was released in April, but they didn't have the demographic data until months later. And that's why August was the delayed timeline.
Right, so So I was okay, so in the notes that were provided, it referenced August and August of 31 and August of 41. So I was under the impression that was the starting time frame that you wanted. I mean, you can change it, I guess. So here's the simple fix. We can just change it to say, and rather than say August, you could say it'll commence, the redistricting process will commence as soon as the census data becomes available, or pick a month and say whichever occurs.
Wouldn't it be sooner, whichever occurs sooner? It's because it's dependent upon the data being available.
Right.
Yeah, we still stuck with the data.
And I would love to say in an ideal world that the federal government would release data on an exact time frame every year, but
Yeah.
I can't.
Okay, that's fine.
Or you could just say, I mean, I guess rather than pin it to a month, you could say the process will start as soon as the decennial census data is available.
That sounds good.
It
Okay.
So can you reiterate? Oh, sorry.
Sure, yeah, I'm gonna make that
Just
change and then I'll
lock
tell the council.
this in.
I think that the purpose behind a date or a specific one being included was so that from a planning and administrative standpoint, it could be on someone's radar. This is coming at this time. Because like I said, the initial data in terms of population numbers was available in April. But the demographic data had been delayed because of COVID. So typically, the data would be available by a time of year. And I'm just saying that as background information from a planning administrative standpoint, not necessarily for the resolution.
So then
That makes sense.
the suggested change then would be that with respect to future redistricting required by MCL 117.27A, the city shall commence the redistricting process as soon as census data becomes available in the year following the decennial census.
Okay.
And Jill, I will send that to you.
And I did just have one follow-up question. When Attorney Marcus and I were working on this, you mentioned that there could be some type of staff awareness of this process, because this is our side of it, but I think internally it would help all of us to know what is being done to make sure the work is prepared for.
Yeah, so one of the conversations that I had with Councilwoman LaNoue is that in the near future, I'm gonna sit down with the manager, probably the clerk, and figure out how we're going to assign duties and approach this for the next census that comes up, so that we've got a clear plan of attack, so to speak, on how we're gonna tackle redistricting for following the next census.
Thank you.
And we can report back to council with what we're gonna do. And if I may, and so and Councilwoman LaNoue brought up a good point, just so council's aware and the public's aware of what we added at the end there, that there's a provision in the Home Rule City Act that basically says a home rule city does not have the authority to extend or shorten an elected council person's term unless they either resign or are removed for cause. So and that's why somebody whose precinct may change as a result of the reapportionment continues to serve until the end of their term. So, I mean, most of you weren't here on the previous council, but if you recall, Councilman Andy Zabluski during the previous census was districted out of his precinct, but he continued to serve because of that provision of the Home Rule City Act.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to thank you, Attorney Marcus, for all your work on this.
City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember LaNoue,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes. Jackson,
yes.
Waller,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. In our packet, we have the application for Councilwoman LaNoue to sit on the Equity Task Force. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Questions or comments? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
LaNoue,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. In our packets, we have information in regards to possibility of purchasing radar traffic signs. There's a lot of information in here, so I will turn this over to Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Yes, and I will just say that it was something that I brought to our Chief Kip due to the conduct of traffic and many things that even Precinct 3 had brought to his attention. And then also some of the items that the DDA had, and they thought I needed to bring it to you so that you could explain to us and see if it's something that you want to go forward in. So I'll turn it over to you.
So, yeah, there was a lot of information in the packet. There were 3 quotes that we've been trying to get for the last year or so from different companies. All of them are roughly the same based on the quotes and provide pretty much the same services on them. The nice part about these is they actually track speed rather so that we can download that and get that information later to give us an idea what traffic flow rates are and the amount of traffic and speed the traffic's going and so forth. There have been other suggestions too, along with lighted crosswalk signs downtown in some areas that people have given me, both downtown businesses and DDA. And so there's a lot of ideas going around. I think the signs can be beneficial. I don't think they're the solution to all the problems that we have. Officers on the street writing tickets are very helpful and tend to do more than I think what these signs would do. My concern is there is a cost to it. I don't think if we have enough money in the budget for one maybe, and one's not going to go very far around the community. We have issues of putting them up on state highways. We'd have to get MDOT approval to do that. And I'm not sure that they would approve it necessarily on state highways, although there are signs on other state highways that I'm aware of, so it's possible that they would. And then how easy it is to install and remove them, I'm not sure. Most of them say it's not very difficult to do, but we have to have the manpower to do that as well. So I think there's sources. I've talked to Dr. Shane about the community foundation possibly donating or having a grant for it where we get money. Obviously the philanthropic women or the men who give would be a possibility as well. There's maybe some grants through insurance companies, but I haven't seen any so far.
They, stated in there that it could also be used in the,
Oh, okay.
yes, that was
Right.
what the last guy that was on here, he put that in there, the radar signs and the quotes.
Yep.
And I had that information that it could be used. I mean, if that's something that you want to get, I hear that in the background saying of the hard work it could be to put them up, and I understand that the way it was explained to me and what I read was that they were easy to put up, and then they also are portable as well. You have the portable and
Right.
the ones that you.
But you have to have something to attach them to, and I don't know if we have what we need to attach them to.
I mean, if it's something
Right.
that, we feel that we don't need, or, I'm just bringing a solution. Just-
Yeah, I've had a lot of requests from it throughout the community. There's a lot of equipment that we need, and these are expensive, and I don't know what will give us the biggest bang for our buck and what we can do basically. So I'm not against them by any means. It's just if we have the funding to do it.
So are they roughly gonna run about 5,000 a piece? Is that what?
Right around 4,000, I think, is a closer price. I think the 5,000 price was the highest, and there was one that was lower than that. But I didn't go clearly through all of them to get the exact prices as far as what they each one provided. I just quickly got the information together and gave it to you, and haven't really had a chance to go through it all myself either.
Was there a area that was in mind, or was it just the residential?
We have several areas that we get complaints a lot about, Irwin Avenue being particularly one of them. We have a lot of complaints on Erie, up Cooper Street up in your area, has some complaints. Usually the streets that are most newly paved tend to have the biggest speed problems.
Right.
The advantage of no potholes.
Right. Now, I did also see, it talked about traffic flows and volume.
Yeah.
I would imagine that would be helpful when
Yes.
discussing feasibility. of
Well,
road usage.
and that's the one thing that I think would be very beneficial to the department. Several years ago, we talked about buying a device that wouldn't have a speed sign with it, but it would do that information gathering for us. And so if I had an idea of where we were having the problems, and what time it's happening, it's easier to do enforcement action rather than guessing on when the best time to be where they need to be is at.
Right. But also, in different facets as well, businesses would like to know how much traffic comes down a certain street,
Yep.
it's.
Absolutely. And those traffic studies are, while they're easier to do now if you have the equipment to do them. Normally you used to see a box on the side of the road with tubes across the road. Generally, that's not done as much anymore. I think MDOT still does that some. We used to have our own here, which I have never seen them use since I've worked here. They're that old. I think, I don't know if we still have them or not. We used to have them. But they're not functional the way they do it now. These boxes tend to be less obtrusive. People don't realize they're there. Of course, these signs would be obviously there. And with the signs, we wouldn't get as accurate detail of what's really happening because you would actually slow people down instead of having them just go by something that they didn't realize was there, have a better idea what was happening. But the goal then is to slow people down, so people know.
Just to be clear, from the custom signals, is this 22-page report just an example? what they offer?
Yeah, most of that is. I just provided everything that they gave us, because I didn't really have time to go through it before I got it out to you.
Okay.
And some gave us more, some gave us others. There's a lot of different options, different things you can do with them, different sizes. And so that's why I said the price range. From what I read, I think around 4,000 would be about average, depending on what we were looking for.
I was just lost. I was like, is this Albion? There's no real clear.
Right, no, none of that is Albion.
Yeah.
So that's just their information from the company that they sent out. And I think, I don't remember if a study got included, there was another study that I found online about them, that clearly showed that the signs actually did reduce speeds, and that they do have an effective use, but again, how many can we get, and how much is it gonna help throughout the community, and where are we gonna put them at? I think there's a lot of decisions that need to be made as well. So at a minimum, I think we need at least 2, but like I said, I can think of 5 or 6 spots to put them up right now. So.
Do we happen to have maybe an intersection or a place where accidents occur frequently, like with people?
Right.
Possibly.
With people, it generally tends to be in the downtown area. We have had some in other places, but we don't have a lot of car pedestrian accidents. Mostly are on left turns in the downtown area where that happens at. And intersections usually with lights, people get crosswalks, so they start walking, so they're making a left turn, watching traffic happen, and don't notice the person walking beside them. So.
Just to kind of reiterate what Chief Kip said, I know some of the main streets that we've had complaints brought to council, Superior Street, the downtown area, and Michigan Avenue, as well as Eaton Street. They're all MDOT roads, so we would have to work with them to get approval for whichever device that we would like to pursue. We can't just purchase something and then put them up, because they have to be on board with what, because I know the DDA, they looked at getting different signs, or the different pedestrian crosswalk signs that go with the actual crosswalk. I mean, that was not approved by that. So whichever roads or whichever areas I think the council would like to pursue, we would just have to keep that in mind before we purchase any equipment.
And the ease of putting them up isn't really as much of the issue as where you're gonna put them up. I mean, if we were to put them on telephone poles, we'd have to get consumers energy approval to do that. We have some street signs, but they may be too low where we'd have to mount them on a street sign, and they may obstruct the signs. So we might have to actually put separate posts in when we put these up, which is a little more of a task for our public services people to do. So that was kind of my concern with where we were going to put them up at. We did have a radar trailer at one time. It was a trailer that we could move around, and that's another option, but they tend to run around $14,000 to $15,000. I think it might be higher than that now. We actually bought the cheaper sign and built the trailer ourselves last time. But we had the tires slashed on it. We had it shoved in the ditch one time. So people abuse it, and the same with these signs. So they have to be mounted in a way that people can't get to them necessarily. But we can still, so they have to be higher and so forth. So I just don't know where we have the ability to install them without actually doing a little extra work to do that as well.
So these will just flash how fast you are going.
And most of them, I don't know if you've noticed, if you go places now, sometimes the signs don't light up. If you're not driving too fast, they will, but most of them now have been designed so that if you're going either 5 or 10 miles an hour more over the speed limit, they won't show you your speed anymore. They'll just flash a light at you, because they had a problem with people trying to see how fast they could get the sign to go. So they quit showing the speeds beyond more than 5 over the speed limit usually. So they just flash a light at you.
That's kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm curious, I mean, you've mentioned that there's a need for this in at least 5 places, but the budget's probably gonna be between maybe 2 and 3 signs. I mean, it's yet to be determined. What are the next steps to make sure that this is actually?
Well, I think we can move them around, so I don't think it's an issue of having to have 5 signs necessarily, but it's how much time do we keep them in one spot? How effective are they being? That, I don't know. I haven't, like I said, we haven't had one in years now to use, and we had a trailer before that we could move around, and we used it occasionally. I don't know how effective it was, or if they are effective. Like I said, some of the research that I provided you showed that they are effective, but different communities see things differently, so.
So is it possible for the city to purchase two and then considering there's options to be reimbursed from philanthropic sources? Just to make sure that this is actually happening before the summer?
Yeah, it's possible. That's what the council wants to spend the money on. I just know there's a lot of other need that we have that, and whether this is a priority or not, so.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
One comment. Being that they're portable and, like you said, if you see an influx in speeding, let's say 6 PM on Monday evening.
Yep.
So you monitor it for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Now you have an officer there right before shift change. Once you have an officer there.
Right.
And then you locate the radar somewhere else. But you could utilize it in that way.
Right,
To,
and that was one of the key things when I was looking at them, the need to have that where we could get statistics on what we're seeing and what would be the ideal times to have officers at those locations, absolutely. I ask people, when people give me complaints all the time, I ask them, I need times. The more specific you can be about that time, the better shot I'll have having people there during that. We had an issue with a motorcycle racing on Irwin Avenue last year. And I kept telling them what time. They finally got me down and narrowed it down to about an hour's worth of time. And we caught them. So, and I've had other situations where people say, give me specific cars. They'll give me a description of a car, exact same time they go every day. And we've caught 3 or 4 different people doing that over the last year, where I've gotten those specific times that the car's going by, and what the problem is, whether they're running the stop sign on Clark Street at the school or speeding down the street. I encourage community all the time to give me that information and I can get people there, but the more specific you are about when it's happening, the better shot we have of catching them, so. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Chica. Next is our discussion on our water department operations.
Good evening. Jeff is going to talk about the water department. He is the utility superintendent. I think he was here time before this week. Right. I believe everybody's had a chance to look over my report. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate you taking the time to write this thorough report. It's kind of a blend of comment question, just wanting your insight. I was, concerned with regard to the growing workload and the staffing level representing the bare minimum.
Right.
And if you could speak to kind of like how you envision those dynamics shifting so that there's a better outcome in that way.
As I wrote with the aging infrastructure, in case today we had another main break. So those are starting to increase. The different mandates, as I wrote, with regards to lead and copper, those deadlines are coming up soon. So with the four men that I have in the water department, one main break is 3 guys. So it only takes one little incident in any other kind of plants, and work mounts up, and we're doing the best we can with the way.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Additional manpower just means we can get more done in a day. So there are several projects that we have going on that I'd like to get done. Hydrant flushing coming up is one of them. That's gonna, we want to keep guys on that for the entire time. I'm estimating maybe 2 weeks. Having that not been done in the city for a long time, it's going to be difficult to. I'm hoping 2 weeks, maybe a week, but I really, till we get into it to find out what the individual challenges are. That'll tell us. But the 3 guys, I think we can, without a whole lot of problems, get it done in 2 weeks for sure. But that's 3 guys doing 8 hours a day. So that leaves me down with 1 guy. I'm going to try to borrow an individual from the street department to help out. but then that, you know, that takes away somebody from them as well. So as far as manpower goes, yeah, we could definitely use that. Equipment wise, we're working on getting a new backhoe. That'll help out quite a bit.
Thank you. I'm really excited to see the hydrant flushing and really appreciate all the work you're doing to plan that. Forgive me if I am forgetting something or didn't see it in here. Are you hiring people? Is
No,
there gonna be-
no, we're not. We're not.
Is there any kind of plan for maybe any way to address those?
We haven't discussed it, honestly.
Okay.
We have, I've just got one guy that filled an empty position
Okay.
a few months ago, so I'm back up to what we would consider normal full demand here.
Okay.
My point was that with a growing workload, mandates from the state, that, you know, an extra guy or two would definitely help.
Okay, if I can just speak on that a little bit, Councilmember LaNoue. You have to have available funds to hire additional staffing. As I stated at our last study session, our water and sewer departments, they are based off of enterprise funds, meaning to pay for the maintenance, the operations. That is based off of the fees that we charge our residents for water and sewer. When our rates have not been raised since 2014, and we have continuing aging infrastructure, there becomes an issue with being able to support additional staff. With that, I'm a little nervous. I'm glad that we're moving forward with the hydrant flush program, but it is a little nerve-wracking, because once we start doing that, that could trigger some unplanned repairs and maintenance, which is a cost to the city. With the budget report that we shared during the last study session, we are roughly a little over $20,000 in the hole each year to balance those funds, meaning we're not bringing in enough revenues to support and sustain that. So with that, we have to identify new sources of revenues to be able to hire new staff. In addition, our street department, they have 5 individuals working to plow, to mow, to hot patch, to assist with any water main breaks, the digs, and other repair equipment. That's a lot of work for 5 individuals. And we're at the levels that we are based on, the city had to do tremendous cuts back in the early 2000s. Before the city of Albion, they had over 100 full-time employees. We're down to 55, but we're still expected to maintain that same level of service on half of the staff load. So it's important that we are, in addition to a dwindling population, our population continues to decline. We're talking with our current, we would need roughly 6,000 more residents to come into our city to help lift that burden from our current residents that are having to pay to maintain this level of service. So it's our job, city administration as well as city council, to identify new ways that we can bring additional revenue to our community, because we all are aware that we need additional equipment, but we really need the additional staff to operate and run and maintain that equipment. So that is, we have to have the money to be able to hire, to be able to purchase, to be able to maintain and provide that service to our community.
Thank you, and thank you for all that you're doing at this really tough time. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you for all the information that you brought up.
Okay,
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
That flushing schedule, I did provide that to all of you via email this afternoon. It has also been shared on the city's website as well as the city's Facebook page. So please encourage residents to check out that information. When they do start to do the hydrant flushing, they will see a drop in the pressure. You will notice groundwater, however, it is safe. There's nothing wrong with the water. They just encourage you not to do laundry during that time because it could ruin or damage your clothing. So we are thankful for all of the hard work that our DPW, all of the departments do.
Next on our agenda, is the discussion for the resolution 2022-20, to support the Mow May initiative.
So moved.
Ms. Mayor,
You gonna
sorry.
say discussion?
Right, it should be approved.
Yes.
So, what I would suggest is someone on council make a motion to amend the agenda so that item G is a discussion / approval.
I move that this item G is changed from discussion to approval of resolution.
So moved.
Or
Does there have to be a vote to?
Yes, because it's an amendment of the
Yeah.
agenda.
City Clerk Domingo?
Right, so what you're voting on is just to amend the agenda for it to include approval.
Did everyone receive the resolution in its final form?
Should have been fine.
Yes. Okay.
Right now, we're just voting to approve the change to approval instead of discussion. Correct. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
LaNoue,
Yes.
Williams,
yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Right. Motion to approve resolution 2022-20.
So moved.
Second.
So we have the copy in front of you. Do you have any questions or concerns on this? Comments? Yes. Councilman Roy?
Okay, thank you. So it says, 10 inches from the date of this resolution. Okay, never mind, I got it in there. So, it's gonna be a lot of people that's gonna ask me, well, when can we mow it? So I got it. Thank you.
Yes, Senator.
I have a few questions and just a few statements to go along with this. I definitely support the initiative and I support and understand the importance of having proper insects and wildlife to properly pollinate for our earth. My concern, I just question, are we looking to implement this starting tomorrow? Just when reviewing all of the information, the different links that were provided, and just seeing how different municipalities do it, they have a complete program in place. And I think if we're gonna do something as important as this initiative, I just wanna make sure we're doing it the right way. I wanna make sure that we are informing our residents that this is an option, that they don't have to mow their backyards for the month of May. I'm a little worried with we're already into May, that by the time we get proper notification out, we may be halfway through the month. So I'm not, and when I say that, I don't say that to say that I don't support this initiative, because I do. I think it's very important that we do. I just want to make sure that we are doing it the right way. A lot of communities, they have a registration process in place where the residents can contact the city or the organization that the city has partnered with to conduct this program, to register, so that we are aware who is participating, who is not, so we don't have to issue possible notices or whatever it may be. Also, different organizations that they provide signs that residents are able to put in their yard that acknowledge that they are participating in the Mow May month. So I just want to make sure if we're going to do something, I want to make sure that we do it right, that we have a strong program in place. And also, if maybe we can identify another organization that we can partner with to get a good, robust Mow May program. That was just based off looking at the city of Ann Arbor and just other different municipalities that have this in place. So I'm not against this, and I will support whichever the council decides to do, but I just want to make sure that we do it right and have a good, strong program in place.
Thank you. Yeah, those are all really important concerns. I know with regard to the registration, which I think is a really, really important part for the city to have, that is something that there are people who are ready and willing to create that for either as a third party or for the city itself. So you would have awareness of people who are participating and then their ability to contact if they have questions. I do appreciate your request for an actual organization. I think that that's something that's often a challenge in our city. There's people who do a lot of things, but the organizational backing is often lacking, but I know, Dr. Danke here is part of the tree committee, and my mom's part of the Albion Volunteer Service Organization, or at least connected to them, as well as Citizens to Beautify Albion and some other organizations who might be able to provide organizational support. In terms of the signs, I think that they're. Can
Could I
she
have like
speak
1
about
minute?
this?
Is that possible?
Well, it's
I'll go with
I would
that.
answer all those questions in 1
proper
minute.
process,
I
but,
bet we have acknowledged that a person can speak if we invite them to speak.
I mean, you know, similar to what City Manager Snyder was saying, it's a great initiative, but maybe, so we can move forward with it this year, but maybe like next year, like at the beginning of April, we have
Absolutely.
some type of organization and bring the resolution again to
All of those
council.
are in place now. If I could have 1 minute, I could explain.
Yeah, that's right.
So just as a point of clarification, I've had a discussion with Councilwoman LaNoue regarding the resolution and some possible concerns I had, but one of the amendments that was made to it was that the city would encourage residents to allow their backyard grass to grow, but only allow it to grow to the maximum height permitted by ordinance. I think a lot of the concerns raised by the manager and I have not had this conversation yet, but the concerns that like about the signage and knowing who's going to be enforced, that should be a moot point with the way that the resolution is drafted, because they're encouraging grass grow, but not to the point where it would violate the ordinance and require enforcement. So I think the purpose behind a lot of the signs that a lot of the other communities do are for purposes of saying, hey, this person's participating, you know, so don't cite them because they're participating in this program. That should be moot because of the way we've drafted this.
I think that something that was discussed was signage, just for purpose of awareness and awareness campaign about bees and the ecosystem, and I think that that is something that could also be provided.
But I think the organizations that you named, that would be great if they wanted to take on this, and the city would obviously definitely support that. Support those groups and support this initiative, but I want to make sure that if we are doing such a, taking on such an important program, that we do have everything in place and we do it the right way. And I would say, just when speaking with our DPW, we understand the importance of this. However, the city has so many parks, the cemetery, and just different areas to maintain. They've already started mowing. I hate to say it, but we started last week, and we don't stop until snowfalls, just to kind of keep up with having such a limited staff and so much acreage to maintain that this, we would encourage all of our residents to participate in this, but I think the city would have to maintain what we currently do in place, because if we don't, we would never catch up. And we also have the Memorial Day ceremony and parade, which our cemetery, it gets a lot of attention. I mean, if we were to let that go, that just would not look good on the city to have that area not maintained and properly ready to go to honor some of our vets and just the residents who may, and the families. That's very important. We hear once we have a lot of rain and it gets, the grass grows quite at a hefty speed, we get complaints that it's not looking, that we need to get out there and maintain that. So I think I would encourage residents to participate in this program, but unfortunately, just due to the limited staff and just our equipment, that we would have to keep with our current schedule, because the reality is we would never catch up.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, I wasn't watching over here, so I'm not sure if your hand up was Councilwoman Fowler's hand up first.
Oh, it don't matter. So you said this is just for people that want to participate? Is that correct?
Yes, I think that, especially due to the timeline component of it, it's more just an awareness campaign. Another factor for why this was considered important enough to bring, even though it is behind in the timeline, is that there are new developments surrounding our community that weren't there last year. So some of the ecosystem that was there before has already changed. So it's just something that people can opt into if they they want to save some gas and have the ability to do so.
So for the sake of the concern of the city manager, would the city have to participate in this if we did this resolution?
Colin, and I just want to chime in.
So this is actually I think that the question that you just posed and the concerns raised by the city manager, which, I think the concerns are valid, but what I wanted to point out is that the paragraph of the resolution that refers to the city's participation uses permissive language. It says the city may participate, so it's not a mandate for the city to do it, but, if the city identifies certain areas that can participate, the city is certainly able to, as far as the publicly owned property.
Are we good with that? Awesome. You put Linda?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
LaNoue,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Future agenda items. Anybody have any tips, something with it?
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I was hoping that we could have a discussion on how the board and commission applications are handled, just for general awareness. And I'm saying that specifically because so like there's like two peculiar kind of exceptional examples that I'm looking at today. But I think there is a general awareness that needs to, I've had people tell me that they submitted applications and don't hear anything back about like why they aren't being even brought to the council for approval. But then I noticed that Ms. Garcia, who submitted the city council, they did want to serve on the DDA, so I would think her DDA application would have come through. And then I know I had also included the Arts Commission on my application, but that wasn't approved. I also included the DDA, but I did have a conversation with Mayor Pro Tem about how there would be a quorum, so I don't know if that's what took it off, but just having more communication about that, considering we really need to fill those seats, I think that would be really important.
I don't think we've seen the.
Our system isn't set up like that to automatically, it comes through for the first board that is chosen.
So she have to resubmit if she.
Yeah, because I don't think we've seen an application for West Garcia for the DDA.
So those are options.
So even though it has secondary option, that what doesn't come through as an application specifically for that board.
Is there any way we could either remove that so people don't think they're applying for another one? Or, yeah, I would assume that's easier than actually allowing them to apply.
And then I think if there's issues through that vetting system, they don't get to me, so I don't know how that communication gets back to the applicant.
Generally, the holdup is unfortunately the income tax issue, and with income tax, it's such a confidential issue that we're not even, we're just flagged by our income tax accountant, like, hey, there's issues. And then they're instructed to reach out to that candidate one-on-one. So Jill and I, we're not privy to what that issue may be, that they have to solely speak to that individual, or our income tax accountant. So most of the time, that's what holds it up. And then once that issue is resolved, then clerk to negotiate is notified, and then it's pushed through to a mayor for review and official recommendation to the council.
Would it be possible in that exchange, I know it creates an extra step for you, but to have awareness if someone is in default, but just making sure that communication is happening, because I've heard from people that they weren't made aware of anything.
The income tax, they reach out to them directly. Like I said, we're not privy with that information to know what the issue is, so I couldn't contact them to like, hey, you need to handle this. So they are, Eric Tobin, he does a good job at reaching out. He reaches out via email and telephone. So I would just encourage that the candidate, whoever's applying to check in that information. I have a few different, just to bring it to council's attention, that will be coming before you all. So it was asked to have on this council, but with the audit taking place all of last week, we will have a discussion on the ARPA funds. I do have, I'll also have an update in my manager's report, so you can expect that discussion to take place at next council meeting. The gentleman from DPW, they kind of mentioned it, we're looking to purchase a backhoe, so we will have official quotes and a recommendation on where that purchase will come from, which fund, that will be on there for approval, as well as you all approved the enterprise fleet management system last year, which allowed us to buy our first round of new trucks for the DPW. So now just sticking with that plan, we will bring forward our, just requesting approval to purchase that next round of trucks that go with that fleet management program. So that will be on there. And then as well as an addendum to my manager's contract, we're talking with Attorney Harkness, and just with the auditors, there was just a question raised by some of the language regarding my time, so we will have that. And then also just request for a rollover of excess vacation time. With me being the only employee in my office for majority of last year, and then now working on assistant manager ridge, I do have quite a bit of vacation time that I'm supposed to use before my June 4th anniversary date. However, we have a lot going on, and I don't feel, since I'm going to be going off on maternity leave for a decent amount of time, I want to make sure I'm giving all of my staff appropriate time to make sure that we have things in place. So I'm just going to request to see if I can have additional rollover of that vacation time, because it will be used here within the upcoming months. So that will be on there as well. And I'm going to mention in my manager's report that we're talking with Councilmember Reed for Juneteenth. It's now a federal and national recognized holiday. However, all of our holidays are in our collective bargaining agreements, and we have one final year. So we would still like to honor that holiday. So we're going to schedule city council and employee appreciation picnic. We're looking to do that on Friday, June 10th. So we would just request that we are able to close at noon so that all of our city staff can do that as well.
Anything else for future agenda? Public comments. Anybody in the gallery would like to stand and make a public comment? We have 3 minutes to do so.
Good evening, everyone. Ronnie Sims, 710 West Erie Street. I made it just in time. I tried to do this in a minute and a half or less. But I have a concern because for the past couple of years, I've been trying to get things done around my house. And it's been like pulling teeth. So I was listening to the meeting. I know we need more people here to do things, but I think we have property, the property behind us. I've been asking to buy for the past 4 years because for nothing else, just to make it look nice. And the city has done absolutely nothing to make it look nice. So when I open up my windows in the back, I'm looking at the Serengeti. I'm just waiting for a cheetah or something to crawl up there and take some vittles up there. That's the way it looks. And I really would like for the city to consider all the property that could be put on the records for tax purposes to help with whatever needs there are that the city has. The streets, of course, as we know, is horrible. But I've been asking I think his name is Kevin, he's over the city works, whatever. When the main broke right next to my house, they came, they dug up big holes and everything, and he said they were gonna come and reseed and reside and all that. Something else, they broke up, and it's a bunch of dirt. You just drive by my house, 17 West Erie, you'll see it for yourself. That's been down there for a year now, and they still have no idea when they're gonna come and fix it. So if I didn't pay my taxes and I'm late on my taxes, guess what's gonna happen? I'm gonna be fine. So this has been going on for 6 years. There's nothing happening with the city. I'm just asking you all to treat me the way the city wants to be treated. Okay? And I'm still willing to buy that property, to fix it up and make it look nice. But I think that's what we have to do, instead of trying to wait for somebody else to come and save us. We need to save ourselves and sell some of this property so that people can manage it and make it look better. And then the park that's being built over there, Macintosh Park, The streets need to be fixed. I don't know how we're gonna go over there and have a good time and can't drive through the streets. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Maggie LaNoue, 1102 East Michigan Avenue. I just wanted to say that VIII USA does have signs, and they give you the PDF so we can print them. And the Ann Arbor sign-up page, they don't take addresses or anything. They just want to have a count of the homes that are participating, and we can sort of copy theirs. It's very simple. And then there's an option if you want more information, click here, and then you just get connected with VIII USA. So that's all. Thank you.
Is VIII USA a national?
Yes, well, it's out of Oregon, but they're connecting all the cities. There's a few dozen so far in the USA, and it should help to get Albion on the map, which should help us to get more grants also. And also, some of the cities are just mowing paths and leaving just some edges. And so there are different ways of dealing with it. And a lot of the tips I'll do a post with information that'll give us ideas. And it should actually save time of city staff if they look at how other cities are managing and they do just some edges and things that they leave for the bees. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the gallery? Anybody else?
Tony Asante Leifa.
Oh, hi there. I've just been going around to different towns and seeing how they're evaluating the efficacy of, the people who are actually in public office. And so there are people like I was trying to.
Can you state your full name and your address?
I'm Tony Asante Lightfoot. I'm actually out of Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And so again, like I said, I'm just going around, I'm doing some research and going to different municipalities and seeing how the efficacy of the actual councilmen and people are being evaluated. And also the heads of their municipal, organizations. And so when I'm listening and I'm hearing people saying, I've been trying to contact so-and-so, I've been doing, this other work, for years and nothing has come of it. Like, who is there to evaluate that work? And then to make sure that the taxpayers of these municipalities are actually getting the services that they are paying for. And then also, what is the process to either reprimand, retrain, or remove ineffectual political offices?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. City manager's report.
Yes, just after hearing Mr. Sims' recent comment, I think that would be a good topic to have at one of our study sessions before our regular meeting. We could have Director Arno come and speak on the ordinance that we have in place, on what we are required to do with excess property. I know this property has just been sold off previously for $1, but there's actually steps that we are required to follow and abide by. I don't want to say that things haven't been done properly, but I think it's important to educate the community as well as council and everybody on what the actual steps are when it comes to city-owned excess property. So that could possibly be a study session topic at one of our future meetings. But a copy of my report was included in the packet. Just as I stated earlier, the 2021 audit, the auditors were on site the week of April 18th to complete that 2021 audit. It was a very busy week within our finance office and other departments as the auditors work with our finance team, but then they meet and have discussions with several other city employees. We're happy to have that completed. They will come back and report the findings or the final report on that audit within the next few months. I had a check-in meeting with the Hanlon County Land Bank Authority on Tuesday, April 19th. We just discussed different properties owned by the land bank as well as the city of Albion. And they're working to get many of their vacant properties listed for sale. So once they have it plan on what that would look like, I will be sure to provide that update to everybody. Big Albion plan update. So I participated in a meeting with the MEDC, the EDC, and ARC on Tuesday, April 19th, to discuss the status of the Big Albion plan. So the Big Albion plan has been in the works for many years now, and I'm happy to say all pre-application materials have been submitted to the MEDC. So right now the ball is kind of in their court to determine or to provide ARC with a letter of intent, which identifies a source of funding to make sure that that project or projects, the 6 different projects that have been identified within that plan can come to life. So ARC, they are hoping to obtain that letter from the MEDC here in the very near future. The Double Vision Center, City Administration, it included myself, our City Assessor, Assistant Manager Ridge, and Director Arnold. We met with members from Double Vision on Tuesday, April 19th, just to discuss their organization and programs available to assist them with improving their facility. The Planning Commission held their regular April meeting on Tuesday, April 19th. They approved the recommendation to you all to distribute the city comprehensive plan for the review period, and the next Planning Commission meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 17th. I had the privilege to be a guest speaker on Wednesday, April 20th in Dr. Vicki Baker's class to share my experience with managing people and organizations. Great conversation was had with that group of students, so I'm very happy that they reached out to me and extended that offer or opportunity. I also met with the Battle Creek Inquirer, Grayson Steele, on Thursday, May 21st, to speak about the proposed street millage. That article was published in the Battle Creek Inquirer. It's very important that we're getting just the information out to all of our residents about that proposed street millage. The 2022 Memorial Day Parade, City Administration, myself, Assistant Manager Ridge, and Deputy Chief Perm, we met with members from the local American Legion on Friday, April 22nd, to discuss the parade for this year. It will be held on Monday, May 30th at 10 a.m. City officials and elected officials, you are all welcome to participate in that parade. It will start off at the marketplace and proceed towards the cemetery. So please, we encourage you to come out and enjoy that wonderful event. They will be honoring the Korean War veterans this year. The National League of Cities Grant Program, Assistant Manager Ridge and I met with members from NLC on Monday, May 25th, to discuss their federal grant navigation program. As I mentioned, this kind of, I think it was last September, they announced this program at the Michigan, what was that, MML's convention conference. And I signed the city of Albion up to take advantage of this program. And we'll just grant navigators will assist us in identifying different grant programs available. So we're very excited to finally have that initial kickoff meeting. Stay tuned for more information on that. Albion environmental discussion. I participated in a meeting with the EDC, the Land Bank, and SME on Tuesday, April 26th, to discuss the environmental testing that has been completed and the findings within the Albion community. The Land Bank, they have agreed to come present on how the EPA grant dollars have been utilized in the Albion community for environmental testing at an upcoming city council meeting. So I think that's good information to provide to everybody because a lot has been done. Unfortunately, that's not something you kind of get to see on the surface level. That has to deal with what's underneath all of us. And I hate to say it, with us being a big industrial community, we have environmental issues and concerns all throughout our community. So please stay tuned for that presentation from the Land Bank. The required compliance expenditure report for our ARPA funding that was submitted and was completed and submitted on Wednesday, April 27th to the U.S. Department of Treasury. As I stated, we'll have a discussion on what we plan to do or utilize our ARPA dollars for at the upcoming council meeting. The city, we also submitted a Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act program grant application on Wednesday, April 27th. We requested $75,000 in grant funding for mental health and wellness for the Public Safety Department. The first progress meeting for the Macintosh Park project was held on Thursday, April 28th. The project is off to a great start. We're very excited to see actual movement at that site. I will continue to provide progress meeting updates as that project continues to move forward. Just an update on personnel. Interviews for the street maintenance worker and custodian positions will be held tomorrow, Tuesday, May 3rd. I have an update. We recently hired a code enforcement officer. Their first day was last Monday. Unfortunately, a few days in, they found out that that work was not a good fit for them. So we no longer have a code enforcement officer, so we will be posting to fill that position again. It's a challenging job, and they felt that that was not the right fit for them. So we would stay tuned for that posting, and we encourage anyone to apply for that position. So the road village town hall meetings, we have a few scheduled. So the next one to discuss the proposed road village will be held on Thursday, May 5th from 11 to 12:30 p.m. here at Albion City Hall. We also have one scheduled for Wednesday, May 25th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. and that will be held at St. Paul Lutheran Church. Just want to say thank you to Maggie LaNoue and the volunteers for cleaning up our community for Earth Day in 2022. And then just as a standing item, just to remind everyone, the citywide cleanup event will be held on Saturday, June 25th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Ketchum and Harris Field. We have a special meeting scheduled for at 7 p.m. to hold a public hearing on a CDBG grant application to do road improvements as well as water and sewer improvements to Dean and Hoagland Drive. So those are the roads that surround Macintosh Park. And then we also have a closeout public hearing on the CDBG grant application that the EDC obtained to do a site master plan development for a proposed second industrial park. So you will kind of hear how the results of that grant program on May 9th at 7 p.m. Then I stated I'll be working with Councilmember Reed to host the employee and city council appreciation picnic on Friday, June 10th. That is all I have in my managers report.
Any questions or comments for, yep, Councilman Williams?
Yes, the personnel,
Yes.
how many personnel are you guys looking to hire?
Right now, just one street maintenance worker and then our part-time custodian position. And we do have 3 seasonal positions available as well. And that will be for parks, streets and water department.
Okay.
And that is for the summer months only.
Okay, now, I have another question about the ARPA compliance expenditure report. So as of right now, you just have basically a draft of what the city's planning on using the funds for? Is that what I'm gathering?
So that report, it's a requirement from the Department of the U.S. Department of Treasury. Since we received our second disbursement of that, we had to identify, depending on what level of funding you receive, if you receive more than $10 million, you were required to submit to them actual detailed plan of what you plan to use that for. Since we received less than $1 million, we did not have to do that. We just had to state that we received it, and then you could use the option just to put it towards revenue, lost revenue. However, as we stated, that probably a good portion of our ARPA dollars will go towards lost revenue just due to our state share, revenue share decreasing.
And that's over the course of 10 years?
No, that will be, we have until 2026 to disperse our ARPA funding.
Yeah.
So that will be just until that time period. But then we also know that there are other opportunities to take advantage of and utilize these dollars. All of the webinars and trainings that we've attended thus far, they really encourage you to leverage your ARPA dollars to take advantage of other grant funding. So as we say, when you guys approved the resolution to submit the MDNR grant application, we said that we could possibly utilize some ARPA funding to match that project, as well as we utilize some ARPAs to purchase the vacant lot from the land bank to utilize the Michigan Mod program. So right now, that's kind of what we're looking to leverage some dollars to obtain more funding to make projects.
Using it as matching funding.
Correct.
Okay, the Albion environmental discussion.
Yes.
Okay, so the land bank is coming to present on the grant funds usage.
Correct. So the land bank, they have applied for grant funding to conduct environmental testing. So a lot of that has been put towards different properties here in Albion. So they will come to present where those grant dollars, where they've been utilized. A lot of it has actually occurred on the west side of our community. That's where a lot of our large industrial manufacturing companies were previously.
No, I get that. Are they going to present on the findings?
Yes, we can do an overview on what has been identified. A lot of properties, they've had phase 1 and phase 2 testing. So yes, that they will be able to speak more in depth on it. I'm still learning because it's a lot of
No, I understand.
information on that, but I think it's information that needs to be shared with our community.
No,
Because until we are able to remediate that problem, it's a big hurdle that we have to get over before we can attract new development.
yeah, it's definitely a concern that, a lot of us have, being that we live in areas that, were anchored by industrial, buildings and other things, so yeah.
Absolutely, not only the areas that actually had the actual manufacturing companies, all over in our community, we have environmental issues. A lot of times they would take fill from that and put it in different areas across the community. So we have environment, I hate to say it, it's a hurdle that we're gonna have to get over in all areas of our community to attract new development.
Thank you.
Is the direct property owned by Albion or the land bank?
It's owned by the city of Albion. That was a property that we discussed in this meeting as well, so they can share what I believe phase 1 and phase 2 testing has been completed at that site, and we do know the contamination that is currently on the site. Right now, due to the contamination, we cannot disturb that site, so that's why the fence has been put up. We can't mow on it, we can't dig until all of that contamination is remediated. That is also a priority site for the city to utilize the RRC program. So once we are able to remediate that environmental concerns, we'll then be able to utilize that program to attract a new developer for that.
I was just wondering, because there's some people that live over there that's talking about, one thing, the big tree that fell down, but another thing, the safetiness of the thing, the air, the ground, the people that still go across it and all of that, and that's an area where you've got a daycare center and a whole bit. That's really not healthy.
Yeah, right now, based on the conversation we had at last week's meeting, as long as we don't disturb the soil and the ground within that area, it's fine. So there's not any like air concerns or anything. It's once we get in, that's why we have to stop mowing. Because when you mow that, you're disrupting the soil and that's releasing those contaminations. So that's why, it does not look pretty, it's overgrown, but we can't do anything until we are able to remediate those environmental issues.
Any other?
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. Thank you, City Manager Snyder. I really appreciate the comprehensive reports and talking through it and all of your hard work. I did have a question about the MDOT reconfiguration of MD9.
Yes.
Is there an update on that project?
I have not, at the beginning of the year, they sent us the drawings that detailed the new proposed parking lines and markings, and we reviewed, Dr. Miller's Department of Public Safety, we all reviewed and sent it back saying it's good, but I have not heard anything. I can follow up with them to see when they put it to report.
Yes, that would help. And then just making sure the residents know that, I'm sure there's gonna be an impact on them as that happens. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Yeah, Mayor Jackson.
Yeah, there was just one. I was just curious about the code enforcement. What is, because I know you tried it a few times, would that be the second time?
Second or third time,
Hired
yes.
one and then another person thought they were gonna get it and then this person didn't get hired.
Yep, so we extended, before we hired this previous candidate, we extended 2 conditional offers, however, they they accepted positions elsewhere. So then we opened the application up, held new interviews, we moved forward, pursued this candidate, and they just started last Monday. Took quite a while to get the physical and drug screen. There's a long wait with that, just I think everyone's trying to hire right now. So they were finally able to come on board. They started last Monday, and after a few days just on the job, they just found that it was not something that they were interested in doing or just did not seem like a right fit for them. So we have a department head meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning, myself, Assistant Manager Ridge, Chief Kip, and then our finance staff will be discussing what do we do to get this position filled.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Councilmember comments? Yes, Councilman Walla?
Okay, so, I just wanted to take the time out to thank, the studio of Albion, Ronnie Sims for the Mother's Day Jubilee. Councilman Fareed and myself had the pleasure of witnessing, all the great things. It was a host of professional singers and along with the, community choir. And it was just a great way for, with churches not being open during the COVID, it was a great moment to do praise and worship. So we do encourage all of our city council members to try and participate in going, because they did want to see a lot of us. They called out a few names and only 2 of us was there. So just a couple words of encouragement to, they videoed it. So it just would have been nice for it to have more than just 2, but it was really a great sight to see. So let's just try to look forward to the next one next year. It was really good.
Councilmember comments?
Thank you, Mayor Center. I was actually going to be volunteering at that event, but I had to be out of town this weekend, so I'm glad to hear that it went really well. I just wanted to echo what I think every candidate for the 6th precinct said about listening first and how important that is right now. I also am announcing my departure from my seat in city council. I have recently moved, and the location of my residence is no longer in the 5th precinct due to the new map that was formed. So despite my different places of location where I'm spending the majority of my time, and where the Michigan Constitution says is my residence, is no longer in the 5th precinct that has been formed. And so I just wanted to thank everyone. Particularly, I want to thank God first for allowing me to be elected and sit in this seat. And then my parents and all those who have supported me, because I would not have been able to be in this place without the support of so many people. I also want to just highlight that I remain deeply committed to bolstering the city's strengths by addressing the city's needs and more effectively tackling the obvious power imbalances and the ongoing calls for more communication. I am very concerned by the indifference that I'm witnessing when council members are being attacked and the city is proposing to expend taxpayers' dollars to hold recall elections. I'm just thinking, what if we were investing that into getting to the root causes of what's happening and actually collaborate to address what is facing our city? And I think it's important to just take notice that, when has the city seen 3 members of council resign in less than 2 years and 3 be subject to recall petitions all at once? In the course of my ability to be in this seat and listen to people in the community share their concerns, just recently within the last month, I've been made aware that there are a number of people who feel like they have no voice whatsoever in the decision-making power, that the way the city has operated is just a small group of people making decisions. And I don't think that reflects who is here in this council today. But I am deeply concerned by how our decision-making will adequately reflect who is here right now and engage people in the processes of the decisions that each of us is volunteering our time, making less than $200 a month to achieve. I think that all of that is really overlooked right now and not being addressed. So again, I look forward to continuing to serve the city in other capacities, and I will be submitting my formal letter with my last day, but this will be my last regular meeting as a council member.
Any other council member comments? So I know that many of us know that Robert Holt, our very own resident, has turned 104. So I kind of wanted to make recognition of that, of his longevity to our community, along with our Centurion, Dr. Curtis. I also wanted to make sure we recognize Mr. Robert Holt too, in his turning 104. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Support. City President Mow?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed, Jackson,
yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Revere,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes, we adjourn 8:52 p.m.
Notice there's never a shortage of people.